to come around. And there he is. Now, who do we have here? Let's see if he's going to look towards us. Straight off the bat, it looks very much like Tingana. What do you think, Brian? Yeah. Definitely looks like him. And the patterns that he's been walking this morning, of course, is very much like Tingana as well. And as you know, the saying goes, a leopard never changes its spots. Well, it's true. They all have various routes that they like to walk. And I'm so happy that after searching far and wide, we were able to find him with the help of Aubrey, of course. So big thanks to Aubrey and his tracker this morning. Now, I don't know if that monkey, he's still shouting, can see this leopard. But I think he just obviously has seen him moving around. And when the animals get unsure as to where something is gone, they will carry on and still alarm, like I said, just to let everybody know. Isn't that beautiful, though? Hello, big boy. Now, we haven't seen him for quite some time. I think that I was the last one who saw him, and that must have been about a week and a half ago. We had a beautiful sighting of him before he disappeared down and towards Cheetah. But I'm so glad that he's back. And it's important that he does disappear for a couple of days. And the reason why it is so important is that he's got a big area to sort of move around on and sort of patrol, like we were discussing earlier. And if he doesn't do regular territorial patrols, he'll find that a young male leopard or even an older one may start to extend their territory, which he doesn't want. Not necessarily because of the land and the food sources that are around, but the wider your area, the more females that you'll be able to sort of see on your patrols. And I reckon Tingana probably sees at least 12 different female leopards, easily. Some that we probably don't see on a regular basis, but his territory is quite vast. Remember, he seems to have pushed Mvula further north into Buffelshoek. We don't see Mvula very often, just occasionally along the boundary. And then, of course, the Anderson male is slightly further west and then more south of where Tingana's territory is. But he looks tired. See how he's panting quite heavily? It's also quite warm today. But I think he's been on a mission this morning, and perhaps he's been moving around quite a bit. And that's probably why he's just resting for the moment, waiting to catch his breath again. And that's it, though. If you put in the time, the hours, the work, the patience, then isn't this so fantastic? Then you're able to find the various animals. Well, we're going to stick with him for, I think, for some time. We'll try and see what he gets up to, and hopefully there's not too much vehicle pressure. But let's go back across and see what the Nkuhumas are now eating. He's indeed waiting for all of you to take lots of screenshots on him. So remember to hashtag Safari Live when you take those beautiful screenshots. We'd love to see them. It's just a pity there's so much vegetation surrounding this termite mound. But I don't think this is going to be a permanent stop. I think he's going to get on the move again. So we'll just patiently sit and wait for him until he decides to make his next move. You all know I'm very, very patient, so I will happily sit here and wait for him until he plots what he's going to do next. Now, I got quite excited. I thought he was going to come in here and maybe have a little sniff at the warthog burrow that's situated in this termite mound, but he didn't even have a look at it, so maybe he knew straight away that there wasn't anything inside. But I believe that he is known for digging out warthogs, which I think is incredible to see something like that. I used to see a lot of lions digging warthogs out in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. They used to love to do that. But I think it would be quite spectacular to see a leopard taking on a big boar. And this is a good spot to sit if you're a leopard, because you can scan your surroundings. He's got an entire view of that drainage system he's just come out of. We're obviously sitting on the other side, but it's just very difficult. There's lots of worry trees surrounding him and other small little shrubs. So we'll just have to look at the back of his spots for the moment. But it's good to see him again nonetheless. There we go. Hello, big boy. He's such a beautiful cat. He obviously heard something. Looks like he wanted to get up there. And he didn't look particularly full either. So perhaps while he goes around, he'll try and look for something to eat. Now, speaking of male leopards, I know that Love3 Dogs was wondering if there's been any word of Sindile. And you're also wondering if he's still got his collar on. Now, I've got good news for you, Love3 Dogs. They've actually removed his collar. I think they almost removed it about 2 weeks ago. It was quite some time ago. And then he was seen sort of running around on Cheetah Plains. But I haven't heard about him for quite some time now. But I'm sure he's still in the area between Elephant Plains, maybe even further east of that, possibly further southeast. It's hard for him because he's a young male leopard. He can't quite establish himself just yet because there's all these big male leopards from Shivambalana to Quarantine to Tingana, the Anderson male, Mvula. There's all these big boys that have already established themselves here. So he sort of lives in between the various leopards' territories. And I've even seen him go right down as far as the Paul Kruger Gate in the Kruger National Park. So almost at Shaw's Gate, which is the most southern entrance to the Sabi Sands. I saw him down there, which is very far away. Sort of as the crow flies, if you were to drive there at the speed we drive, it would probably take you about 3.5 hours to get all the way down that way. So it's a distance. But he did come back though. So perhaps he's just hiding away somewhere, but it'll be quite exciting when we do get to see him again. We're obviously always on the lookout for young male leopard footprints. And it'll be exciting to see him because I think he's probably grown quite a bit. And it is nice that the Sabi Sands kept their word as soon as they could, and they found him again. They were going to take that collar off, which they did. So that's good. And obviously that collar was very important. It was quite a controversial thing. A lot of people are against having a collar on a leopard. But I think it was a special circumstance to sort of see if he was going to be okay about his well-being. And it was very important to try and eradicate something like rabies. Because rabies, you can imagine, as we're driving around here in vehicles, animals become almost tame if they were skittish beforehand. And sometimes these animals walk right up and past the vehicle. Now, you wouldn't want something like a rabid leopard or a lion, even a waterbuck or a warthog roaming around in areas where a human could easily become infected. And, of course, they're just going to spread rabies right through and onto various different species, which could be, of course, devastating. So it's always important just to check in. And obviously he didn't pick it up, which was lucky. And I think that they learnt so much from that short time that he had that collar on, which is very exciting. We want to try and find out and learn as much as we can about the species, especially like a leopard. Seems as though he's having a little bit of a nap at the moment. Maybe we'll try and sneak around and have a look. Let's try and find a little gap so we can get his head. I think we should be able to get one. We'll just go up a bit further. we go. This is a nice gap. How's that? That's beautiful. And isn't this wonderful how we're able to change angles? He actually looks like he's settling down now for a bit more of a permanent nap than what we saw him doing earlier. His head is now obviously not perked up and looking around, but still panting quite heavily. Heavily, not heavily. There was too many L's in that word. And when you're so big, it's nice to have naps. Now, we see him every now and then popping through the area. I haven't seen Tingana too many times. And I know, Lisa, you were wondering if he is the father of Karula's cubs. Now, I think they are. I think because Karula seems to spend quite a bit of time on this side, but there's also a possibility that there's not. She could have mated with a variety of different males, but from what I've seen and from what everyone else has said, they have indeed said that, of course, Tingana is the father. We can, like I said, though, there's nothing saying for certain, though, that it is. You'd have to do a DNA test if you wanted to know exactly, because I'm sure it's not just the one male that she's been mating with. If she bumped into the Anderson male and she was an estrus, well, I'm sure that she probably would have flirted with him too, and any of the other males. But particularly the bigger boys, so not somebody like Sandile or Quarantine. They're a little bit too young still. But the older boys, maybe even Mvula, we don't really know. And that's always quite difficult. It was like, I always tell the story about the four-ways male lions mating with the Southern Pride. And two of the cubs, the oldest cubs that they have now, don't belong to the Charlestons at all. And we could easily confirm that, though, because before the Charlestons arrived, the one lioness was pregnant. We could see that her mammary glands were swollen. So we indeed knew that way that it was definitely the four-ways males. But it's a little bit different compared to lions and leopards, is because typically, like for instance down in the south, each pride of lions has a coalition of males, or one male or 4 or 5 males. Up here it seems to be a bit different. It seems as though the Birminghams really rule this northern section, and they go between a couple of different prides. So down south it was quite easy to be able to tell who was who in the zoo and which males were mating with which females. But of course with the leopards it's always difficult, because down there, I'm just trying to think, we had so many different male leopards, and on various occasions I saw the same leopard mating with 2 different males. Like a Tingana was a Mashabeni. He was our dominant leopard, but we also used to see Shivona Kele, who used to roam those areas and used to be the dominant leopard. And then, of course, Mbavala, who's the contender for being one of the largest leopards in the sand. So we would see them, and actually even more, a couple of others. I've forgotten their names, though, now. The ones we didn't see as often. And they would all do their rounds, though, mating with the various leopardesses in that area. He seems very settled now. Hello, Lauren, who's a new viewer watching for the first time. Welcome, and it's good to hear your name. Hopefully we hear from you on a regular basis. Now, you were wondering if a leopard can have twins. Well, it's quite funny that you say that, because a leopard can have up to 3 or 4 cubs in one go. 2 is very common, though. So technically, yes, they can indeed. And I suspect Tingana's been moving for quite some time. They typically will do most of their rounds under the cover of darkness. It didn't look like he got anything to eat, though, from what I saw when we very quickly saw him moving around. We just turn the radio down. Here we go. And so he must be quite exhausted. He did let off a call earlier. So what we're going to do, sorry, I'm just getting a bit distracted. Aubrey just wants to pull out. So we're going to let Aubrey quickly come past us. So we're going to lose view of Tingana for just a moment. And then we'll carry on, though. But isn't this amazing, though? We worked hard. How long did we work for, Brian? Probably about almost an hour? Almost an hour of good, solid tracking, driving the same road, trying to figure out where he was, listening to the monkeys' calls, and then, of course, finally, well done to Aubrey. Well done, hey? Who was able to finally pick him up on foot. And that was, I think, the only way we were going to find him is when he went in and had a good look in this drainage system. Let's have another look at him. And he's fast asleep, though. Now, there's obviously quite a few people that would love to come and see this leopard, so we'll just spend a couple more minutes with him. And then, unfortunately, we're going to have to give someone else a turn. But isn't that amazing? Day 60 of our cat streak. And we got both leopard and lion. Now we're seeing him here just resting on top of this termite mound, and Waterski Andrew was wondering, why doesn't he sleep up in the top of the tree? He doesn't have to. So typically they'll go up into the tops of the trees if there's really no shade around or anything, or if they feel as though, they don't want to worry about anything else coming around them, because they're not the top predator in this area like the lions, so they do have to look over their shoulder occasionally. So they'll go up there, but we don't actually see, as common as what it is to see a leopard in a tree, you normally find them sleeping on the base or on a termite mound, in a drainage system, on some sort of wet mud. But if they've got a kill up in that tree, well, then they won't leave it. And then that's often when you see the leopard sort of laying up in there, is that they've possibly taken a kill in the tree. Well, and if they leave it in that tree and they disappear for too long, well, then it could be for somebody else a meal, from the vultures to another leopard even. I've even seen lions climbing up trees and removing leopard kills that they've tried to stash up there. Well, it doesn't always work. But it's not very hot at the moment. It actually feels as though it's got a little bit cooler, and it's quite overcast. So he can just sit out in the open and not have to worry about shading himself just yet. Look at those beautiful paws. And I just love how the spots go from rosettes to actual spots and down on his paws. And he's got lots of little ones. He is such a beautiful cat, though. He reminds me a lot of the male leopard, our resident male, Mashabeni. Tingana's much bigger than him, though. Mashabeni wasn't a very big leopard, but let me tell you, he was fierce and he had a very big personality. And any leopard that come through, he would chase them out. And he fought with young male leopards. He fought with older male leopards that had experience. And he often used to come out with just a couple of scars, even though he was sort of small in stature. And he used to boss those older boys around, and the younger ones too, which was always incredible to see. They've sort of got the same look about them as well. Now, Anna Marie, you say that Tingana is big and he definitely has that aura of dominance. I have to agree. Even if you don't see him, you sort of feel his presence. And that's sort of something that you need to come on safari to really experience. It's the same thing with a big elephant bull. You might not know he's there, but you can feel him, that he's moving through the bushes, which is quite amazing. It almost makes you want to look. You hear him. He's just listening to another vehicle that's, I think, trying to make their way into the sighting. Now, we've all seen how beautiful Tingana's dewlap is. I think we got a very quick glimpse of it as he perched himself up onto the termite mound. Now, Andrew, you've commented on this and you've said how wonderful his neck is, but you're also wondering, does it help him to move his meal around? I think it most certainly does, because he's very, very powerful. And obviously all the power of a leopard, and the same thing with a lion, is in their shoulders. So they've got these massive muscles on their shoulders. You can see, look how they're sort of just bulging out of his arms. He does look like he is a weightlifter. And then, of course, the muscle in his neck will definitely help him as he needs to pull a carcass up. It's like Mr. Anderson, and I suppose Tingana is the same. They quite easily and are well capable of being able to take down young zebra and young waterbuck, which is incredible. The same thing with Mashibeni. He was able to do that, but he wasn't as big, and I found that quite impressive, that he was able to also take down such large prey. Just sitting up again. I don't know if he'll stay here the whole day. I suspect he'll probably move at some point. Now, Charles, you're wondering how fast a leopard can run. I must tell you, out of the animals, the leopard has got the most incredible charging speed. So I'm terribly sorry, I forget what it is in feet. But in meters, a leopard can charge at 24 meters per second. So before you've even blinked, he'll be at your feet going, hello, here I am. Now, their initial speed is quite quick. They can't really run as fast as lions, I don't think. We often see the leopards trying to sneak up and almost doing this sort of pounce technique where they'll come through the long grass and then jump up and land almost directly on top of their prey. So I don't think that they can run more than about anywhere between 50 and 60 kilometers, but they won't keep that up for very long. It's just a brief speed. Like I said, they're experts in getting right up to their prey. And instead of chasing it down like we see the lions doing, in relation, not chasing it down like the hyenas and wild dogs will, of course, but they don't need to run for as long. It's usually a quick dash, that initial charge, and they're within 10 or 20 meters already of their prey. But I think what we're going to have to do, it's quite limited a view here. So maybe what we'll do is I think we're going to have to pull out and just give a couple of other guides a chance. There were quite a few of them standing by waiting to see this beautiful beast, but it's something exciting. Maybe he'll still be around this afternoon and we'll have an opportunity to follow up on him again then. So you're going to have to grab your final screenshots as I start the vehicle. We'll just let Andrew move out and then we'll have our chance and then move out. And hopefully the flies don't bother him as much as they did the other day. Bob and Laura, I love that. You know what? I didn't even notice that. That is amazing. So please can you take a screenshot of this beautiful smiley face that Bob and Laura have pointed out for me that he has on his shoulder, on his left shoulder. That is incredible. See, it's amazing how different people are able to see different things. I didn't even notice that. That wasn't something that particularly stood out to me. But now, that is all I can see on his body. So thank you so much. I'd appreciate those screenshots. If you can hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can even email them to me or us at questions@WildEarth.tv, and I'd have a look at them a little bit later. But I'm so glad that you all enjoyed the beautiful Tingana, but I think it's our time to leave him and continue his slumber. Right. Wasn't that amazing? We're going to head on now, and I know that James is dying to catch up with you all again. He's got some elephants.